Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by former Georgia Bulldogs head coach Jim Donnan and, of course, Dayne Young, our executive producer, man in charge of the studio, and the one who's going to be asking all the questions that have showed up on the DawgVent this morning. We've had a lot of people that have questions about this Georgia football team. We're halfway through the season. The Bulldogs are 5-1, one loss in the SEC. 6 different offensive lines, a very mercurial team, a team that doesn't quit, but a team that also gets down really badly in the first half of a lot of these games. And I know Coach doesn't he always likes to look forward. So I know he wants to talk about Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss coming into town, but I always force him to look back just a little bit to get his take on the previous game. So, Coach, before we move on to Ole Miss, let's get your thoughts on Auburn and maybe that slow start and that amazing finish. That was quite the turnaround at halftime.
Certainly want to congratulate our team, staff, everybody associated, fans that were there, people that watch along. It was just a tremendous victory. I mean, I think all of us can rehash how badly we felt early in the game, but it showed the resiliency on this team and showed the strength of our team, which our defense is a lot better when they can control the down and distance and use some of their stuff, but from my perspective on the slow starts, and we have had an inordinate amount of them, when you look at the last 11 games, we've been behind at halftime against Power 5 teams, 10 of the 11. So it's not like it's something surprising. It's just happened. But it has happened. And I think a couple reasons here. Number one, teams throughout history have studied your opponents. That's part of the way you got to do. You know what you got to do to make it work. I know we studied Florida all the time. We studied Tennessee all the time. Attila the Hun studied the Romans all the time because he had to defeat them. And it's just the reality of you have to have a plan. Auburn had a 2-week chance to look at what they've been doing and what they've been working and whatnot, and knew what they want to try to do against Georgia. And they did a really good job with it. And the second thing is, the injuries in our offensive line. There's nothing that really gives you on a play call the solidarity or whatever you want to use the word of knowing that you're going to be executing on the level you need to. So we have just enough mistakes on offense to stop ourselves, coupled with good play by the defense. So my theory on what's happening this year particularly is we don't have the athletes at safety and at defensive end that are difference makers when all things are equal to overcome what the other teams planned on us. So you take that plan and they executed like they did flawlessly. They knew where to go on their zone blitzes. They got the ball to Singleton and Coleman. The quarterback didn't make any mistakes. Turnover-wise, they didn't have any penalties much. And fortunately for them, they really did a good job of executing. And defensively, we had a couple big mistakes where our offense just couldn't make a play where they had a linebacker run through and things like that. So the benefit of listening to me right here would be that I think other teams study Georgia and they know what they want to try to do, just like everybody does, but they're not going to do anything outside their bailiwick too much, but they know they got to do something different because Georgia's going to play their tendencies. It's a well-coached team. So they get away from their tendencies and they make us execute, and that's what's happened the last 10 or 11 games.
I think it's a great analysis, Coach. I actually went and looked on the participation report because I was curious. Georgia knocked it out of the park in the transfer portal when it came to the wide receivers. I think you had 16 catches by guys who had transferred in. Georgia's 3 safeties that transferred in this year I don't think they made the trip, or at least I didn't see them on the participation report. So the portal gives and the portal takes away, and that makes sense, especially when we were watching the game with you, when you were seeing the guys go around the edges there, just absolutely attacking the edges. That would, like you said about the defensive ends, you were so frustrated that Georgia couldn't set an edge there and just jet sweeps. And I mean, the first play, they gave it to Singleton around the edge, and he picked up, 8-9 yards. So But then, Georgia adjusted schematically, and was a completely different group in the second half. They executed better, and like you said, some of the stuff that they put in, Georgia had not seen to this point. They put in some new stuff because they had extra time, and it worked. But by the time Georgia had seen it a couple times, they had adjusted, and then it stopped working. So I think you nailed it with the edge and the safety help, and that's going to be they're going to be really tested against Ole Miss, coach.
Here's the thing. We in the second half we moved our ends around at the edge. Quintavious came inside a couple of times on a slant, worked to the outside, and that's part of everything that you need to do. But the other teams helped you out too. Yeah. Singleton's wide open on a touchdown on Thomas. All you got to do is lay it up there, and he's going to at least get 50 yards there. And but he overthrows him just enough. He did the same thing against Oklahoma. Missed Coleman a couple of times. I'm talking about the quarterback Jackson Arnold, and it's incredulous to me that he's not thrown an interception in over 300 passes, including this year. But he's last in the league in quarterback passing efficiency. So that gives you a pretty good idea about they're not getting much out of their passing game.
I've noticed a lot of people were, kind of wondering about what the slow starts and such, offense and defense. And I want to give a shout out to the offensive line because I personally was just ripping the tackle play on the first quarter or so. I mean, Bo Hewley on one side, Juan Gaston missed a few, but then Monroe Fleeting comes in injured, one leg, and just lays out. He's named SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, even though he was warming up with the third team. It just didn't look like he was going to get in. He played really well. Gaston settled down, and this is the sixth different offensive line configuration that Georgia started with in 6 games. And the fact that you're 5-1, if you told me Georgia is going to have to change this offensive line every game for the first 6 games, I'm going to tell you that they're going 3-3 at best. And that just blows my mind.
Yeah, without rehashing it too much, but if you go out after spring practice, you go into fall camp, and you say your 2 tackles against Auburn are going to be Bo Hughley and Juan Gaston, how many people would know that? Nobody. So, but certainly Juan Gaston is doing a really good job, and Bo is coming around. But he's got it. You're trying to block a first-round draft choice. That guy right there is going to be playing on Sunday, so it's very difficult. But you got to give. The last thing I want to point out is you got to give Stockton just a tremendous amount of kudos for his ability to avoid the rush, stand in there under fire, and deliver, and make just enough plays to keep the chains moving. And, of course, the second half was just a brilliant execution deal. Another game that we played in an unbelievable environment without jumping off sides. It's just really good discipline on this team.
2 more quick shout-outs from that game, both at receiver. Zachariah Branch, Coach Radi, you've both been talking about it. You have to get him touches, and Georgia did in the second half, and Auburn didn't really have answers for it. But the thing that I think is it may be minimized a bit, London Humphreys had 2 critical catches in that game that moved the chains and kept Georgia on the field. And he has been pretty darn reliable for Georgia in some clutch situations.
Yeah, a good point. And it's certainly Kobe Young, and then we get Thomas in there and make some plays, and there's a game where Bell maybe didn't, and we got a good catch by Delp, and a really good catch by, even though it was he could have kept running out of the backfield. That play we ran to 3 Frazier, where we faked up inside and dipped it off right over the top, was really good. We did it twice to keep one time on 3rd down, and one time maybe it was 4th down. I'm not sure, but
I was about to say I think he converted the 3rd and the 4th down with those throws to him. And
everybody wants to know about Bowens, and we couldn't really say a lot about it on the watch along show, but he's had a little trouble with the tweak in his calf, and he certainly came in there and scored a touchdown for us. But you're not going to put a guy on the bench that got 135 yards the week before unless something's wrong with him. Come on.
Yeah, and No, I was about to say something, but I knew that would jinx him, so I won't say it. I'll swallow that comment. But I asked Kirby about Chauncey Bowens yesterday, and he said that they expect him back Saturday. So with him, you saw. I love that run by Josh McCray on the goal line to help punch it out of there on that second down.
Yeah, showed a little quickness there, broke to the outside, and then set up that deal. But can't wait to hear some of these questions now. I think we hit this pretty well, and let's roll. Unless you got something else, I mean.
No, it's okay. Go ahead and start with the questions there, Dane. I don't want to talk.
All right, let's start with Oak Cliff Dogs. Says, Coach, I loved your recent interview with Dr. Drew Brannon on the Growth Project podcast. Georgia is a team that has proven that it's mentally tough and not willing to concede. Can you give us some insight of the work that Dr. Brannon does with the team?
Well, that's nice of him to listen to that. I'm really impressed with the way that Dr. Brannon interacts with our players. I mean, they have a lot of confidence in going to him, and everything's private, of course, but every person has different ways to be motivated. That's part of the deal as a coach. Some kids respond a little more to sugar, and some a little bit more getting after them. So, but the overall team atmosphere has to be created, and certainly that culture is one that Kirby does a good job. But having a professional in that area is really important, because it's like nutrition, strength gain, academics, all of it's part of getting the players ready to go. But I just think his one-on-one ability to interact with the guys, they have complete faith in what he tries to get them to do. And then he builds up these group situations where everybody gets to know a little bit more about what makes the other person tick as far as outside the parameters of the room they're in. So let's say you're a defensive back. You really know the defensive back's pretty good because you spend a lot of time with them. But throughout the year, they get groups that have collective group of one DB, one running back, 8 or 9 groups with only one person from one room in it. And everybody talks about where they grew up, what their family's like. And that's the way you create an atmosphere of trust and belief in each other. And I believe as a coach, when I was coaching, in the off season when a guy's busting his ass and doing everything and not cutting corners. And when the going gets tough, that guy's going to be right there for you, as compared to a guy that's slacking off and not running through the drills and going full speed. So it's not just the physical part, it's the mental part. But having him around, and a lot of people don't know that he was actually called the week of our game, our last home game, to go up to the Ryder Cup, and he actually talked to our team up there about mental preparation.
Wow.
Didn't work very good, but it did help a little bit that last day. They almost came back.
This is a take on the questions about slow starts. I'm going to lump these together. Didn't mean to say it that way because one's from Lump Dog. This is similar to questions about why Georgia plays better well after the opening kick. The team that we saw in the second half could win every game. The team that played in the first half against Auburn may not beat Clark Central, says Lump Dog. PA Dog says, Coach, it's clear that Georgia is amazing at halftime adjustments. The question is, why can't they make the same adjustments earlier in the game than the half? And I'm going to reframe this, Coach, because Peyton Manning, I heard him say on one of his shows that halftime adjustments is the biggest misconception in all of football, that they don't really happen that way. Is that true?
He's exactly right. I'm glad that Peyton's coming out with that. You better make the adjustments like we have in the second quarter. We did some things second quarter-wise to slow them down a little bit. After that first touchdown, we held them to a field goal. And sometimes the other team helps you a little bit. They get a little greedy. Coach Freeze was running that little reverse on the goal line with a fake and, some of those plays. But I think to Lump Dog's deal, the bottom line, if I can just keep being as strong as I can be as far as getting this across to everybody, we do not have the talent that we have had. So that makes it harder. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's not reacting to his question. It's just the overall about we have had 10 or 11 games. Last year, I would say I couldn't understand it because we did have the talent, but we didn't have the offensive talent because our receivers were ineligible because of being off. Our offensive line was hurt all the time and all those things. But the combination of the two right now is, we are just not that good right now compared to what the level that all of us have been expecting over the years. And we've got to win different ways. So it might take us a little while to catch up with what they're doing and figure it out. I guarantee you Lane's going to come in there with a lot of stuff Saturday, and it's going to look like, but we're covering guys in the safety position with guys that can't cover people. I mean, that's reality. They can't. If they get some help, and that's why you got to have different coverages. If you're going to blitz, you playing man coverage, you better hope that the guy overthrows him like Singleton. So I think it's just a myriad of areas that we aren't as good as we've been.
Yeah, last year you nailed it because you actually – I remember asking you why are they having trouble, and it was a myriad of reasons you were trying to put your finger on it. This year, I mean, last week, we ended the show with you saying, I'm just telling all Georgia fans to take a reality pill. This team is not quite as talented, and we saw that in the first half. But and I think the first question we got about, Georgia's guts, the way they don't quit, the confidence they have to have after being – and they've trailed numerous times, and to them, they're like, oh, we're not over. If you watch the video they put out yesterday, Coach, from it was the victory highlights, Kirby Smart is in the locker room talking to his team, and he's saying, hey, or some of the players saying, look, we took their best shot. And they did. Everything was going right pretty much for Auburn for 20 minutes, and you were only down by 7. And the players are like, that was the best they can do. And then Kirby said, look, this is how it sets up for us. We are a fourth quarter team. And he made it sound like it was a movie, kind of set up. And came out in the second half. They played different. And that's fourth quarter drive, that 8-minute and 45-second drive was, I think, a brilliance. And you did that with, you notice it was the offense that took over where you were more talented. And they kept the defense off the field. The defense wasn't in pressure because the 9-minute drive, the defense, that's the best thing you can do for your defense is have these nice long drives. So
anyway you look at it, this Auburn team played on the road against a team that's ranked number 4 in the country, one-score game, and that team only scored 1 touchdown. I think Texas A&M kicked field goals. So we got to give Auburn credit for having a good defense on them, first of all. And then second, they got some weapons offensively. But, the fact that they're 0-3, but all 3 of their games, they've lost to teams ranked in the top 10 when they played them, 2 of them on the road. But the reality, again, is just the fact that if our offensive line is intact enough to not have mental errors, I think we can be a really good offense. I mean, a B-plus offense, an offense that's close to being really explosive and ball control, and with our kicking. Our defense has got to play around its warts. I mean, you got to cover up the safeties. You got to work with your linebackers to help on the edge that when the guys get outflanked, and you got to hope the other team gets some penalties and some turnovers. So that's part of being a team to react to that. Look at the Baltimore Ravens. They're getting besieged with the injuries and all that. I mean, that's what happens. You lose your players. Sometimes you're not as good as you need to be, but I am excited. And you guys get to talk to me off the air, and we're around here. I've told you when the season started that this is going to be a year that we might get in the playoffs. I hope we do. I said that. But we're going to need some breaks, and we're going to need some guys to come around, particularly on defense. At this point, we hadn't had that happen on defense. In the secondary, we haven't.
You've had it happen on offense, which is where, for me, a lot of the excitement is. I knew that Branch was going to be good, but to see Juan Gaston doing what he's doing, Dontrell Glover, Elias Williams, the tight end, gets out there, and at one point they're all on the same side of the field, and I'm thinking, no, that's kind of crazy. And he'll get better. A lot of guys are perking up over there, and so should be absolutely raucous final 6 games of the season. I do want to mention real quick our friends over at
one point I want to make on that. The next 4 games, to me, every one of them is a toss-up.
Yeah. Absolutely fair. Trying to talk about our friends over at Darden's Delights. Betsy Glass and her husband created this company in a wonderful effort to get pies into people's hands, because they made some pies at a bake sale one time and everybody went nuts, and everybody started reaching out to Betsy saying, "Will you make another one for me? I'll buy it from you." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So she started doing that. And then now they have shipped to all 50 states. So they get an order, they bake it, bake it fresh, then they freeze it, then they ship it. And it's just a great idea if you want to have one. The fudge pie is kind of the famous one. That's the one that kind of launched the whole thing. But you can see they have tons of others, birthday cake pie, chocolate chip cookie pie, butterscotch pecan pie, peanut butter cup pie. Just saying, there's a bunch of those. And then, of course, they have their savory ones. You've only got poppy seed chicken pie, a quiche Lorraine, tomato pie, one of my wife's favorites, cheeseburger pie. They listen to the show every week while they're baking, and we appreciate them doing that. They're supposed to bring us a few more, so Dayne's going to be very lucky here towards the end of the week.
Man, I was so happy when that message came through, because I've tried to get a slice or two from the ones that we've had at the watch along show for Coach's house, and I'll be darned if the people around Coach don't get to them before I do.
Yeah,
Dayne, I feel sorry for you.
So they're both both graduates from the University of Georgia, and they're one of their daughters is a freshman at UGA. And so, of course, mom's coming up to take care of the daughter, and let her Darden, her sister, visit her. So as they come to Athens, they're going to bring us some pies. You can get them though. Just go to dardensdelights.com and order some. Also want to mention our friends at Athens Ford.
I'm having a chicken pie tonight.
You son of a. Okay.
What time? What time? We'll be there.
What time, Coach? What time?
It's reservations only.
I want to mention our friends at Athens Ford real quick. They have a bunch of new specials on their Fords out there, up to $9,000 off on a Ford Escape. You can get a Ford Mustang Mach-E, the really lightning quick Mustang, for like $409. There's all sorts of deals out there. I just highly recommend that you swing by Athens Ford. You won't find a better group of people who will help you get the car you need for your budget and for your lifestyle. And even if it's not in a Ford, they're like, okay, what do you need? They have a bunch of pre-owned vehicles as well. They're like, okay, well, here's a better idea for you. And so I just want to tell you, I've not run into people who were more willing to bend over backwards to help me, my family, my wife's car, my son's car, my car, my friends, aunts, uncles, everybody who's ever bought from them has just raved about how wonderful they are. So that is the type of service you will get at Athens Ford. So swing by and see them. Huge Georgia fans, and they support the Dogs.
This question from Brett Goodell on YouTube. Who's the young man that stands behind Kirby Smart on the sidelines carrying a notebook? It appears that he's telling Kirby something that I assume is analytics or some kind of tendency thing.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is, but that's what he is. He's got the book that has what we going to use during the game right there with his what needs to be told to Kirby, and situationally Kirby's thinking about it before it gets up there, and this guy looked on the analytics. That's what he does.
83 WR Dog. Georgia's record against Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, and Georgia Tech since 2017 is 32-2. The question, is that good?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking last night to somebody about 18-0. That's what you got 2 9-0 records against Tennessee and Auburn, and inexplicably that Tennessee game would be even more. That one win they got was, a Hail Mary, and then the Tech win was kind of a fluke the way they won that game over here. So I think it's just I would have liked to have half of those wins. I'd probably still be coaching. We were playing them when they were all at kind of doing their best, really, as far as, really, I mean, Auburn maybe wasn't, but Tennessee and Florida and Tech were really rolling. But that's what you're supposed to be measured by at Georgia. So 32-2 is unbelievable.
That was kind of their golden age under Fulmer and Spurrier, and
They both won titles.
Yeah, I was going to say that was.
Rick won the ACC too, but that I really feel like that fumble on the goal line, Jordan. That was a Jasper Saints catch up with. I mean, we got that back.
There you go.
From Bulldog Ben, Coach, do you think going forward that teams will hire GMs or admin people that focus on the portal and recruiting to allow coaches to be more X's and O's oriented? It seems like today's game has a lot more emphasis on roster management rather than game plans. Could an NFL model work better?
He's right on. I think everybody's doing that. We're doing it. We just don't publicize all the guys that we got doing it. But we got guys in the portal right now checking out people everywhere, watching tape on teams, getting stats in all divisions. And, I can see every team that's really good now and the ones that are trying to start over where, the December, January portal is, maybe 1/3 of your team just because you've lost so many players. You better replenish them. So, and, you're going to lose 15, 20 players every year anyhow. So I think certainly you got to recruit on a level, but you just can't develop players like you did and hope they're going to sit around and wait. You watch Damon Wilson Saturday. Wouldn't it have been nice for him to have 2 sacks and 3 tackles for a loss like he did against Alabama? You watch A.J. Harris playing corner. You watch all these guys. Here's an example here. We had a guy here that transferred from Southern Cal named Michael Jackson, who's a really good kid, good player, but couldn't scratch our lineup. He caught 14 passes in one game for Purdue the other day. 14. Now, that's either that league is really bad or he's just had a tremendous influx of talent. But can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Well, and Roddy, to Coach's point about the scouting that gets done, I remember you saying last year, probably a little bit earlier than this, that Georgia was having eyes on what Fernando Mendoza was doing at Cal. And all of a sudden, now the world sees what he can do and what he is doing at Indiana. He may be a first-round pick in the NFL. Georgia was monitoring that situation, like well before they had a need for a quarterback.
Yeah, you got to be thinking ahead. 2 things I really want in a coach: ability to handle pressure and ability to look into the future. Because you just can't be on the now. You got to be able to be thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to, what's going to happen? And we've got the manpower over there and we got the resources. Mark Robinson is our the director of football operations. He's as close. You could call him a general manager, but he's on top of everything, and he's got a great staff. With Anna DeFabio, of course, and Anna, of course. I can't ever pronounce her last name since she got married. Is good, but she knows who I'm talking about. And then there's a good staff of people there, and then our scouting staff. We got Coach Coop and all those guys over there looking at players. And we got he's exactly right, whatever his name was. That's the future. The portal is going to be the future of college football.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot in our recruiting coverage. We've had a lot of people who, I don't want to say have tuned out, but they're like, I don't get as excited about recruiting as I used to. Although Kirby Smart's recruiting at a really high clip. He's still.
Yeah, you got to get those guys right. But you need to get excited. We need to have a show on the portal. Who's coming in on the portal?
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to just tell folks now. When we used to get together at the Blind Pig, we'd have hundreds of people come out for signing day. Hell, in the Donnan and Rick eras, we had, we'd get an assistant coach come by and talk to everybody. It would just be every time if a fax came in and we wrote the name on the board, the place went nuts, and we do that 25 times a day. As the names came through. Now signing day is most of the kids already signed pretty simply. You put it on Twitter. We write a blurb about each one. But the 10 days that the portal is active. Now, a lot of these guys are going to go into the portal long before that 10 days hits because they can say, hey, I intend to enter. And so we'll know that they're going to. But the 10 days starting, January 2nd or whenever it is, It is going to be that is the future of your team. So the traffic on the sites, the updates will be wild because, as Coach says, that is your future, and you can see it right now. I'm not saying it's bigger than signing day, but the impact is much more immediate, absolutely immediate. So
just like pro football with the guys losing the free agency and you get the draft to supplement your team, but what are you going to do in free agency? And are you going to be able to retain these players and sign them to their contracts to keep them? It's the same model we're going to have in college football.
Yeah.
From KCKD, Coach, have you ever meant to clap and accidentally made the timeout gesture? You use both hands for both, so it's an honest thing that could happen.
I'm not going to go there on that. I mean, that's not fair for me to comment about what he was doing and what he wasn't, but it really was immaterial because it had no effect on the game.
Right.
It could have had, but based on what happened, there's a lot of heeing and hawing about. But he had warned them about the clapping, but I don't know what the sign language is for anything anymore. But I'm for Kirby. Whatever plan he's got, I'm gonna back him.
Georgia on that drive, everybody makes a big deal about it. The Auburn fans really have a chapped ass about it, but I'm like, nothing happened. Georgia never even used that timeout. Georgia tried to kick a field goal, missed. End of story. You got the ball back. It didn't even punch you deep, so, and you got a BS call on a Cash Jones on a blindside.
Yeah, that was terrible. But if I was an Auburn fan, and I'll never be one, but I got some friends that are there, but I'd have to ask, what in the heck are you guys doing at halftime? You look at their offensive inefficiency in the second half has been unbelievable against zero against Texas A&M and Oklahoma, and they got 25 yards on that last drive on us, but 50 yards total in the second half. Come on. And defensively, they do a pretty good job, but at the same time, you just can't hold the team scoreless. So, but I'm not worried about Auburn. I tell you, Auburn needs to get their ass in gear. Florida does too. I mean, those two jobs look to me like they're imminently going to be open.
I was thinking that I don't know if it's the last 3 SEC games or all the SEC games, but Georgia gave up 41 points in the first half and 7 in the second half. That was bouncing around there. That's a kind of wild stat about Georgia.
And it was to Kentucky too.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, were you surprised about the James Franklin firing as I was?
Yeah, mainly because last year he's one or two plays away from playing for the national championship, and there's got to be some stuff behind the scenes. A couple things that I've heard, and that's why you listen to this show here is what do we call it? UGASports Live. I understand that Adidas is taking over for Nike their contract, and they're not telling them who to be the coach, but they did say that supposedly that they'll be glad to pony up some extra money to help them defray the cost of the $49 million. And then the other thing is that the owner of the Bills, Pagula, who his daughter is a tennis player, is a big Penn State guy, and he's making a commitment to them to help with the new coach and the NIL and all the things they need to do. And he supposedly is trying to get Joe Brady, the guy that was the architect of that offense that LSU had in 2019, coordinator of the Bills offense. He's trying to get him the job. So we'll see.
It surprised me, Dane. I was like, I get that, Drew Aller's out and you lost some games, but that now it makes a lot more sense. Thanks, Coach. I didn't know any of that. So okay.
When Coach says Auburn, Florida, could be revolving doors, I'm sitting there thinking, somebody's going to take James Franklin if he wants to keep coaching right now. He may want to count his money, but someone's going to, if he wants to coach, he'll have a spot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'll definitely have a chance.
Let's do some more questions after our final break here, Roddy.
Yeah, let's talk about our friends over at Atlanta Dental Implants. I'll let you run the commercial there, and then I'll talk about them when we come back.
All right. I did not have that ready, but I do now.
Hi, my name's Tammy, and I have full mouth dental implants. I had some cavities, and then I had some teeth that were missing. It started getting worse, and I knew something needed to be done. Dr. Holcomb made me feel relaxed, and that's so important. I was very surprised when I saw how natural they are. They really look like my other teeth, but better and more of them. The boost of confidence that I have is overwhelming.
Yeah, the Atlanta Dental Implants, great people. They're right there in Atlanta. They can do they call it smiles in a day. They can give you a brand new smile in as little as 1 day, thanks to their in-house lab and their experienced team. The prices are on their website. If you're like, what does this cost? Well, you can go check it out. They have very flexible payment plans and package pricing, and that makes life-changing dentistry available. So check out the folks, Dr. Skylar Holcomb over at Atlanta Dental Implants. He's a giant Georgia fan. I know he was sideways when the Bulldogs won against Auburn, and he'll be screaming his heart out in Athens this coming Saturday at 3:30. Also, real quick on our friends at the myperfectfranchise.net, hit them up and check out the different franchises that are available. It doesn't cost you anything. He will talk with you, have conversations, give you plans, give you all sorts of information, and it never doesn't cost you a dime. So check out myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ledecky, you'll be glad you did so.
DMUGA says, Coach, have you heard from Sean McDonough on Saturday? He had some strong opinions about the reviews and everything else with the refs. Curious if you've talked to him since then.
Yeah, I talked to him, but I'd rather not share that personal approach to it. But he had his opinion on it. I did mine. But, he's got to be objective in how he does things. And he's also, he likes Georgia. I promise you that. But
he does.
It's hard to be to go both sides of the fence there. But, Kirby did do like this. I mean, it's hard. I don't know what he meant by that, but he did do that. So, but the one on the goal line is, we can rehash that forever, but let's keep going.
I'll just note that I think Sean McDonough is one of the most legendary sports broadcasters that there is, especially in terms of his range. I think he does an excellent job. And friend of the show. We've interviewed him once, Coach, and that was a fun time. So 83 WR Dog says, Coach, what do you think about the job that Kurt Cignetti is doing at Indiana?
Unbelievable. I mean, when you look at it and the magnitude of what he's been able to do, a complete turnaround of a program that's been the doormat of Big Ten for a long time. Now, they've had a couple years up and down, but I just give him tremendous credit for him and his staff. And I started looking at their roster, what he was able to do. He came from James Madison, and they were winning. I think he brought like 15 or 16 players from James Madison that he felt like were good enough, or at least as good as what Indiana had, that had a chance to maybe help them, that knew their system. And then he looked into the players at a level that he was used to that were stars. So a lot of those defensive linemen, and they're physical. You saw them get after Oregon last week. Those D linemen playing for them are from non-Power 5 teams, but they're good enough to really help Indiana. And, of course, he got Mendoza. He already had his brother who had been recruited by the previous staff. And, you mentioned him being first-round draft. He's probably going to be the first guy taken.
Wow.
We had him.
We had the same reaction, Roddy.
We had him on campus, and about that same time was when Gunner got to play in the championship game, and he had to decide, hey, is Georgia going to go with this guy? He's got experience, which he didn't have before. And there was that article that came out about him being associated with Bobo's family for a long time and all that. So that didn't help either.
Yeah, that going back to your question, Dane, about looking ahead and the guys who can play. I thought it was very interesting. Kirby Smart, you could see the respect, and I don't even call it sour grapes, but he was just flummoxed by the find that is Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss. He's like, whoever found that guy.
How about him?
at Ole Miss. He goes, they need an award. They need a raise. And it's kind of like the Mendoza thing. And so what Kirk Cignetti's doing, the guys he's playing with on that defensive line are just – there are great players out there, and a lot of the focus is because you only have so much staff. A lot of the focus is pouring over the smaller schools, looking for guys that can play at this level because, my God, there's a ton of them. I cover them every day.
There's a lot of support in There's a lot of support in Indiana for sure, but all of a sudden those basketball people see that this is happening and start getting some of that money in there too. And you just look about the what ifs. I mean, I watched Caleb Williams last night. I mean, we had Caleb Williams, but we had some staff changes and his family wasn't as familiar with the guys that were taking over, and that's when Brock decommitted to Oklahoma when that situation happened. And I just feel like there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't know about that in the end make the difference for these kids. So, but certainly we're on the right people all the time. That's for sure.
And we'll add that to your point about, who's looking ahead. I know there are staffers at Georgia combing through the rosters, making lists of guys that they think can play this level. And if a D3 kid or a kid at a FCS school can play, Georgia will take them. And they compile lists, they compile, and just you waiting to see if the kid goes in the portal. If he does, something about him. It's not like, is he any good? Because you can't wait till then. You got thousands.
You got to set these visits up now. Remember that kid from Rhode Island? We got as an offensive lineman. I mean, that was a long time ago, but he came in here and played. But something I probably, if I was at the game, I would be watching some of these staffers after the game when you go up and say, "Good game, Dayne, good game," all that. You go up to them, "Good game. Are you going to be in the portal?"
We'd love to have you here if you.
We're going to be looking
January 3rd.
We're going to be looking at you, yeah.
Well, if Hugh Freeze gets canned, all of a sudden there's some free transfers that get to happen at Auburn.
They won't be free. They won't be free, but they'll be paid for. But I can tell you one thing: his roster is SEC roster. They got players.
They got two kids that were committed to Georgia over there playing defense.
They got two offensive linemen going to get drafted quickly, and the receivers, and they went after Singleton, but
the two DNs.
Yeah.
All right. So FPREX. Coach, did you script the first 10 or 15 plays of a game? And do you think that's something Georgia does now? And I'll just know, I do think that's one of the reasons Auburn looks so good is their opening script. Once they got off of that, you didn't see them be as efficient on offense.
No, I never got into that because I never knew the situational things that would happen. I had some things that I had a little asterisk over on the side of my thing that said must run that I wanted to check off in the first half just to see what they're not so much at the play work, but how they would react to that formation. But I was more of an instinctive guy, calling it based on how the gut feel. And I really never looked at my game plan that much on the sideline, except after the plays. After each series, I'd look at it a little bit. But when I was in the press box, I could really gear in on it a little bit more. But, it's like anybody's business. You know your business inside and out, and you have a good feel for it. So you want to put your players in the best position to do well. But it's up to the quarterback pretty much now on the play calls, because they're either or we've got the RPOs and all that, but you got to train them too, and that's really important to get the quarterbacks. And I was thinking the other day, because I got a lot of time by myself, just looking over. I made a list of all the quarterbacks I'd ever had, going back to freshman year at NC State when I coached the freshman team, and look at what they did playing wise and what they've done with their careers and what they've done with their lives. And over 90% of them are successful in life.
Wow.
Because they know, not because they're around me, but because they know what it's like to accept responsibility, to go out there on their own and do what's necessary to lead their team. And it's a tremendous responsibility to be a quarterback. It really is. And everybody's looking at you and critiquing you every which way, which is okay. But the bottom line is, you look at a guy like Gunner and you see the way these players react to him after the game, and they're so happy for him because they know what he represents. And I've had millions of people over. I mean, I've seen millions of people comment over the years about that part of the it factor that a quarterback has, and most of them, if they've got it, they got it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
From Lost Dog 2, can I trust my eyes when they tell me that Georgia's secondary is improving quickly, or is that a result of just facing less talented quarterbacks?
I think you probably need to get some glasses. I don't really believe it. You look at the first half. I mean, this is like 4 straight teams that are throwing the ball like 80% on us. So I don't see that much improvement in our secondary. Although second half we made some plays, and I don't be too hard on them. We certainly make some plays. You can't defend every pass, but we don't get any interceptions. We don't get any deflections. We're not around the ball that much. It's just we're not as talented in the secondary as we've been. We are improving at corner. He's right there. We are improving there, and maybe some at safety. I don't know, but it's an issue. It's definitely an issue.
UGA alum 95, since Kirby's been at Georgia, it seems like there's always one, if not more, of the heavy hitters, the enforcers in the secondary, last one being Dan Jackson. Watching the first half at Auburn, is that the thing that Georgia's missing now?
Among other things, I mean, we don't have really good run support, and we don't have good coverage, but we're definitely missing Dan Jackson. We're missing safety. I mean, any kind of safety beside KJ, but Aguero's doing okay. And, of course, Kyron Jones, I see some improvement from him on certain things, and then Ja'Cory Thomas has been around for a long time and knows what to do, but he's kind of a liability on man coverage.
Coach, we had talked about C.J. Allen being kind of put on some lists for first-round picks, and I think all of us kind of like raised our eyebrows of like, well, that doesn't match what we'd been seeing. Saturday did.
Yeah, I thought, and Kirby mentioned it yesterday, just some of the things he did, not just the blitz, but the way he covered that guy on the one route and almost intercepted it. But he's just a leader and a type of guy you want to represent your defense. And Raylan Wilson's the same kind of player. And then he put Cole and Williams in there. Those are athletic guys that are kind of symbolic of Georgia defense that we maybe don't see on the edge like we do at linebacker.
Final one, and it's not a question, it's a comment from Dog Flo. Just says, I heard Coach's commentary at the end of the game just about his own health on the Watch Along show. Just tell him we love him, love his commentary, and pulling for him to have sustained and better health. And those night games are tough on all of us. I got 3 young kids, so I'm getting up at 6 a.m. Radi doesn't go to bed until then on a game day. So I'm around Coach a decent amount off the air. Roddy's the same. You're doing very well, Coach, and it's a lot of fun that we get to do this during football season. Yeah,
I mean, it's nobody's issue but mine. But you got to accept your, like I told you, both you guys, I had almost 80 years of great health, and now this deal here is just hard to overcome. You just don't have. You got these. Myasthenia is a situation where you don't get enough protein in your muscles. And that's why I have to wear these glasses, because my eyelids don't open as much as they need to. And then it gets into your neck and then affects your breathing and then overall. But I've got a good plan. And, hey, two months ago I was on a walker. Now I can go out and, walk pretty good. But I'm just thankful I can still watch the dogs and be around my family and be with you guys. And, I really enjoy answering the question. Sometimes I'm a little bit impatient. Everybody knows that, because I see things maybe that you don't, or maybe I don't agree with. But really, I want Georgia to win so badly. I want Kirby. I know I was texting to Andrew after the game how happy he was. It's just Georgia's been good to me. I had a bad situation with one guy that didn't work out, but I really appreciate the fan support.
I will say this: after Georgia won the SEC championship last year, coaches in the one of the boxes there. And he's like, I need to get down to the field. And I'm like, that's going to be really hard to do. And he's like, no. He makes a phone call. Someone brings him a credential to get onto the field, but I don't have one. So we go down, and it is a long walk. And then the only way to get through there was over some cords and some TV stuff. And I'm like, Coach, this is going to be a pain. He's like, I'm going to get onto the damn field. Sure enough, he gets out of the field. We talk our way past the security guard, and to see all the coaches and the players. I didn't realize Coach knew all the damn players, but he does. And they all came up to him, and they wanted to celebrate with Coach. So when he says he wants to see them win, he's not doing that because he's on UGA Sports Live. That is his raison d'etre, if you will. So
right. Always remember there's no greater reward than team victory. And we really personified team this year. And I like our team from the standpoint we find different ways to win and all that, but we're just gonna. It's kind of like a high school team playing where you might be outmanned. You got to find a way to block a kick or do something or recover a fumble on the 1 yard line or whatever it might be. That it's just a different strategy for all of us to understand. And when Kirby's talking about we need the fans Saturday, I mean, we need them to understand that everything's not going to be hunky-dory, and we need to – it's going to be a 4-quarter game. This quarterback is the real deal now. I mean, you know how much trouble we have with defending guys that can run at quarterback? Everybody does, but this guy can throw too, and they got a big-time tight end, good back. Defensively, not quite as good as they were last year because all those guys up front have gone to pros, but certainly, the defensive coordinator was the one at Alabama that beat Kirby several times, was on the staff, and he's done a good job of defending us. So we'll have our hands full, but something about the game just makes me feel like we're about 12 months pregnant for all the things that have been going wrong for us to go right. Our offensive line might be healthy. These defensive ends might play better. Safeties might keep doing some better things. We return a kick. Who knows? Lane gets impatient, goes for it on 4th down on his 22-yard line and doesn't make it. I mean, who knows? But it's going to be a fun game, and I'm enjoying the fact that these guys from ESPN are coming in and get to see Stanford Steve and Reese Davis, and it'll be fun for all of us.
Coach, we're going to have some good girls. All right, folks, we're going to wrap the show there. Be sure to tune in to the Georgia Watch Along show this Saturday. There's nothing else like it. I get calls and texts from all over the country, people that tune in and watch it, and we have prizes we give away and we give insight, and you find out more on that Watch Along show than – and there's nothing against the ESPN guys who are going to call the game, but I guarantee you will learn more about the Georgia football team and why things are going the way they are, good or bad, if you watch Coach Donnan at 3:30 this coming Saturday. So tune in then, and we'll see you later.